Get ready to dive deep into the world of ancient Indian dynasties. We've got some fascinating audio excerpts from the Brahma Purana, and, well, we're excited to explore them together. Intricate lineages, epic tales, all that good stuff.
Yeah, the Brahma Purana, one of the 18 major Puranas, these ancient Hindu texts. They're kind of like, encyclopedias of mythology and history and cosmology and all that.
So we're basically going to be tracing family lines way back, starting with this King Ayu and his son, Nahua, right?
Exactly. This one, the Brahma Purana, it's known for these crazy creation myths, like really elaborate family trees spanning centuries.
Sounds intense.
Oh, it is. You could expect powerful kings, surprising curses, even a character who might remind you of, like a figure from Greek mythology. But let's start with King Ayu, and his sons.
Okay, let's dive in. What's so important about King Ayu's lineage?
Well, King Ayu had 5 sons, but the narrative really focuses on 2 of them, Nahusha and Raji. Raji, he was incredibly powerful. Even Indra, the king of the gods, feared him.
Wow, feared by Indra. That's no joke. What made this Raji so powerful?
He was this, skilled warrior, and he actually fought for both the gods and the demons.
Both sides?
Yeah, strategically choosing sides based on, who offered him the better deal at the time.
That's so interesting, almost like a political strategist. It makes you think about, the choices we make today. Are we always acting in our own best interest? Or, considering the bigger picture?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Raji's pragmatism ultimately led him to side with the gods, though, and they were so impressed by his power that they actually declared him the new Indra.
Hold on. So the throne of Indra, it wasn't necessarily like a hereditary thing. Someone could just usurp the king of the gods. That really changes my whole understanding of the power dynamics, even among the gods. So what happened to Raji after he became Indra?
Well, the Brahma Purana doesn't really go into detail about Raji's reign as Indra, but it does highlight this fluidity of power even in the celestial realm. But, while Raji's story is fascinating, his brother, Anna, also had this huge and influential lineage we should explore.
Okay, before we move on, I'm curious about Yayati's sons, the ones who refused his offer. What happened to them? Did they, face any consequences for defying their father?
That's a good question. The Brahma Purana just says that Yayati cursed his sons who refused, but it doesn't really go into specifics about what happened to them afterward. Kind of makes you think, though, right? Obedience, consequences of defying authority, even when that authority might be asking for something totally unreasonable. It also makes you think about the sacrifices, expected of children, sons especially in ancient Indian society. But yeah, let's talk about Anna's lineage.
Okay, Anna's family tree. What notable figures came from his line?
Well, Anna's lineage includes figures like Dhruva, known for his unwavering devotion. And then there's Dhanvantari, the god of medicine in Hinduism. He's credited with organizing Ayurveda, the traditional Indian system of medicine, into 8 branches.
So we're talking about the very roots of traditional Indian medicine.
Absolutely. And there's King Maratha. He's the one credited with bringing the Ganges River to Earth.
Wow, bringing a whole river to Earth. That's got to be a big deal. I can already picture the epic poems and sculptures about it.
Oh, yeah. It's a story that really embodies perseverance and devotion, for sure.
So we've talked about Raji, who became Indra, and Anna, whose descendant brought the Ganges to Earth. What about their brother Nahua? You mentioned a Greek myth connection earlier.
Yes.
Yes.
Nahua's lineage is where things get really interesting. His line leads to this king named Yayati. He conquered the whole earth, but guess what? He still wanted more.
What more could you want after conquering the whole world?
Eternal youth.
Ah, the classic desire to cheat time. So what did he do? How did he try to get eternal youth?
He made this, unusual proposition to his sons. He asked them to exchange their youth for his old age.
He wanted his sons to, become old men so he could stay young.
Pretty much.
That's a bold ask, even for a king. Makes you think about the dynamics of power back then and the lengths people would go to, for their desires. Was that even considered acceptable? Or was it a big no-no?
It's a fascinating question. The Brahma Purana doesn't really say how the sons felt about it initially, but we do know that all but one of them refused.
Okay, so who was the one who said yes to this crazy deal?
Kuru. And Yayati, he got his 1,000 years of youth, just like he wanted.
1,000 years? You'd think that'd be enough to satisfy anyone. What happened after that?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Even after having his wish granted, Yayati realizes that this whole desire for eternal youth, it was pointless. There's this really poignant quote in the Brahma Purana where he says that desire is never really satisfied, no matter how much you try to fulfill it.
That's deep.
Yeah.
It makes me think about like Buddhist philosophy, impermanence of all things, that kind of stuff. Did this realization change him at all?
Oh, yeah. After those 1,000 years, Yayati gives Puru his youth back. He realizes that true happiness isn't about chasing those fleeting desires. It's about seeking something deeper.
That's quite a lesson to learn, especially after 1,000 years. So what happened to Puru after he got his youth back?
Well, Puru's story is far from over. His lineage is incredibly important. It leads to the Kuru dynasty, one of the most famous dynasties in ancient Indian history.
Oh, wow. The Kuru dynasty. Wasn't the Mahabharata all about the Kuru dynasty?
Exactly. And within Puru's lineage, we find King Farada. His name is actually where Bharatavarsha, the ancient name for India, comes from.
Wow. So we're talking about like the origins of India itself. That's a pretty amazing connection for our listeners, linking them back to the very foundation of their country. Puru's lineage sounds incredibly significant. What else should we know about his descendants?
Well, there's King Shantanu, Bhishma, who's the grandfather of the Pandavas, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and of course the Pandava brothers themselves.
Wait, the Panda brothers from the Mahabharata. That's amazing. We're really getting into the heart of ancient Indian epics here. But what about Yayati's other sons? The ones who said no to giving up their youth? Did their stories just end there?
The Brahma Purana doesn't go into as much detail about them as of Puru, but it does mention the lineages of Turvasu, Druyu, Anu, and Yadu. Yadu's lineage is particularly interesting.
Oh, what's so special about Yadu's line?
Well, his lineage leads to the birth of Krishna, one of the most important figures in Hinduism.
Krishna, the divine cowherd, the embodiment of love and wisdom. This is getting really exciting. It seems like every generation has something amazing to offer. What else can you tell us about Yadu's descendants?
Well, in Yadu's lineage, we encounter this totally fascinating character, Kartavirya Arjuna, a king with 1,000 arms.
1,000 arms. That sounds almost superhuman. What did he do with all those arms?
He was a super powerful king, conquered the earth, even captured Ravana, the antagonist from the epic Ramayana.
So 1,000-armed king who conquered even the villain from another epic tale. This guy sounds legendary.
He was incredibly powerful, but there's a twist. Despite all his strength and conquests, Kartavirya Arjuna was ultimately cursed by a sage and killed by Parashurama, another prominent figure in Hindu mythology.
It sounds like even with 1,000 arms, you can't escape fate. What led to his downfall, though?
That's a good question. It seems like power, even extraordinary power, can be fleeting. We've covered a lot of ground. From King Ayu's sons to this incredible Kartavirya Arjuna. Let's take a moment to think about what we've learned. What really stands out to you? It's amazing how these stories connect family ties, epic battles, and profound philosophical ideas. It's like a glimpse into this world where gods and mortals interact, power is always shifting, and the desire for worldly things can lead to some pretty unexpected consequences.
Yeah. I'm already seeing how these ancient stories relate to our lives today. They remind us of ambition, sacrifice, the search for meaning. These are timeless human experiences. It's amazing how all these stories are connected, right? Like threads in this massive, intricate tapestry. We've got kings becoming gods, a king wanting to stay young forever, a king with 1,000 arms. Each one's more unbelievable than the last. But you mentioned these stories also have philosophical stuff in them.
Oh, absolutely. The Brahma Purana, it's not just about telling these crazy stories, it's also about exploring some deeper truths about human nature, about existence itself.
I'm really intrigued by that. Could you give me an example? How were those philosophical ideas woven into these stories?
Well, take the story of Kartavirya Arjuna. Here's a king, he's got immense power, he's conquered lands, even captured Ravana. But even with all that power, he's brought down by this curse.
Like a cautionary tale almost. About the limits of power, the dangers of arrogance. I wonder if all that power made him blind to the consequences.
Yeah, good point. The Brahma Purana definitely suggests that ambition, arrogance, it can lead to downfall. Doesn't matter how strong or important you are. This theme, like the cyclical nature of power, it pops up all the time. Even the most powerful people, they can rise and fall.
It's like a reminder nothing is permanent, right?
Yeah.
Even those who seem invincible, they're not immune to fate. Makes you appreciate the good times even more, knowing they won't last forever.
For sure. The Brahma Purana really emphasizes that impermanence of power, possessions. It's encouraging us to look beyond those things, seek something deeper, more lasting.
Speaking of deeper things, we talked about Yayati's son, Puru, right? His lineage led to the Kuru dynasty, which, if I remember correctly, is super important in the Mahabharata. I'm ready to dive into this lineage. Where do we start?
Let's start with King Shantanu, a big figure in Puru's line. He had a son, Devavrata, with the river goddess Ganga.
A river goddess. Didn't we hear about a river goddess before? With Bhumaratha, the king who brought the Ganges River to Earth.
You got it. Some definite recurring themes here. The Brahma Purana loves to blur the lines between humans and the divine, showing how gods and goddesses can really mess with mortal lives.
It's so cool how these stories mix the human and divine, creating this world where anything can happen. So Shantanu's son, Devavrata, what's his deal?
Devavrata, he later becomes known as Bhishma, a figure of strength, wisdom, and big-time self-sacrifice. He's actually key in the events leading up to the Kurukshetra War, the whole central conflict of the Mahabharata.
Bhishma, the grandsire of the Pandavas. Like, things are coming back to me now. Didn't he make some famous vow?
Yeah. Bhishma took a vow of celibacy. No marriage, no kids, all to make sure his father was happy and the kingdom was stable.
That's serious selflessness. Giving up his own happiness for, like, the greater good. It makes you think about sacrifices people made back then. Duty, honor, all that.
It really shaped his legacy. He's a symbol of loyalty, commitment, a reminder that true strength can come from sacrifice and, serving a higher purpose.
So we've got Shantanu, his son Bhishma, this super virtuous, self-sacrificing figure. What about the other main players in the Mahabharata? Where do Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and the Pandavas fit in?
Well, after all that, Shantanu marries Satyavati, and they have two sons, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. Sadly, both die young, no heirs. Leaves the lineage in a tricky spot.
Whoa, that's tough. What happened to the throne? How did the family line continue?
Well, to make sure the dynasty continued, Satyavati asks her son from a previous relationship, Vyasa, he's a sage, to father kids with Vichitravirya's widows.
Wait, so Vyasa, basically a stepbrother, fathers kids with his dead stepbrother's wives. That's complicated. What were the social implications of that?
It definitely shows how complex family and social norms were in ancient India. The Brahma Purana doesn't shy away from these kind of unusual situations, gives us a peek into the different ways people lived back then. It's important to remember we're looking at things from a totally different time period.
Right, of course. So who were the children Vyasa fathered?
He fathered three sons, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura. Dhritarashtra, the oldest, he was born blind, so they considered him ineligible to rule. Pandu, the younger brother, he takes the throne, but then he gets cursed, forced to give it up.
Okay, finally we get to Pandu, the father of the Pandavas. What kind of curse made him give up the throne?
While he was hunting, Pandu accidentally killed a sage. The sage was disguised as a deer. And as he's dying, the sage, furious, he curses Pandu. Says he'll die if he ever, has conjugal relations.
That's tragic. A reminder that actions can have serious unintended consequences. Must have been a tough spot for Pandu. Wanting to do his duty, have heirs, but stuck with this curse.
Totally. It highlights this tension between desire and duty, a theme that's all over the Brahma Purana. Pandu has to make a choice, sacrifice his own happiness for the greater good.
So how do the Pandavas even exist if Pandu can't have kids? Seems like a paradox.
That's where things get even wilder. Pandu's wife, Kunti, she'd received a boon from a sage. She could invoke any god and have a child by them.
She could choose which god would be the father. That's amazing. It's like ancient tradition meets divine intervention, shaping the future of an entire dynasty.
It definitely adds a layer of mystery and wonder, right? Shows the power of divine forces.
So Kunti used this boon to have children.
Exactly. Using this boon, she gives birth to three of the Pandava brothers. Yudhishthira, son of Dharma, which is righteousness, Bhima, son of Vayu, the wind, and Arjuna, son of Indra, king of the gods himself.
That explains why they're so extraordinary. It's like their divine parentage gave them unique skills and destinies. But you said 5 Pandava brothers. Where do the other 2 come in?
Pandu's other wife, Madri, she uses the boon too, invokes the Ashwin twins and gives birth to Nakula and Sahadeva. So there you have it, the 5 Pandavas, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva, each one with their own special qualities and role to play in the epic story to come.
What a story. It's like a cosmic soap opera, gods, kings, curses, crazy births. And this is just the lead up to the Mahabharata.
You got it. The Brahma Purana is setting the stage for the huge conflict between the Pandavas and their cousins, the Kauravas, Dhritarashtra's sons. It's Dharma versus Adharma, righteousness against greed and envy.
I can already feel the tension. We've gone through so many generations, met so many incredible characters, like we're peeling back layers of history and myth, uncovering this complex tapestry, connecting all these figures.
The Brahma Purana is like this huge ancient tree, each branch a lineage, with its own triumphs, tragedies, heroes, and villains.
It's incredible how these stories have shaped India's culture and spirituality, and we're still finding new connections, insights. What else does the Brahma Purana have in store for us? It's wild, right? We've been on this like epic adventure through time, kings, gods, curses, incredible births. These stories are amazing. But there's also this deeper meaning, this wisdom that goes beyond just the stories themselves.
Yeah, definitely. The Brahma Purana isn't just about these fantastic tales. It's about the human experience, power, desire, duty, that search for meaning.
You mentioned before how that story of Kartavirya Arjuna, the king with 1,000 arms, it was like a warning about unchecked ambition. Are there any other examples of the Brahma Purana, like exploring these deeper themes?
Oh, tons. One of the best examples is Yati realizing how desire can never really be satisfied. He got 1,000 years of youth, but still, it wasn't enough. True happiness wasn't about getting everything he wanted. It was something more.
It's like when you chase those fleeting desires, you end up empty? Makes me think about how we always want more stuff, thinking it'll make us happy. But real happiness, it comes from within.
Exactly. The Brahma Purana seems to be saying, hey, look beyond the surface. Find a deeper understanding of yourselves, of the world. It's about letting go of those attachments, finding inner peace.
That really resonates with me. Like the text is encouraging us to go on our own journeys, just like the characters in these stories.
Exactly. The Brahma Purana, like a lot of these ancient texts, it stresses the importance of spiritual enlightenment, going beyond the material world to connect with something bigger.
It's amazing, right, how these old stories, they still speak to us today. They've got this timeless wisdom that goes beyond any one culture.
They show us that people have always been asking the same questions about meaning, purpose, happiness. It doesn't matter how different things were back then. Those core human experiences, they're still the same.
I think that's why these ancient texts are so powerful. They give us a glimpse into this universal human experience, showing us that we're all connected by these struggles and hopes.
Yeah, it's a sense of continuity, a connection between then and now, reminding us that we're all part of this bigger story that stretches way back in time.
It's been an incredible journey diving into the Brahma Purana, and I feel like we've only scratched the surface. What final thought would you leave our listeners with as we wrap up this deep dive?
The Brahma Purana, with all its genealogies, epic tales, and deep philosophical insights, it's a treasure trove of knowledge and wisdom, just waiting to be explored. It's an invitation to dive into the incredible world of Indian mythology, discover those truths that resonate even today.
It's a reminder that we never stop learning, right? There's always more to uncover, more connections to make, more insights to gain. So keep exploring. Dive into the Brahma Purana, check out other Puranic texts. Who knows what fascinating figures and incredible insights you'll find.
Until next time, may your exploration of ancient wisdom enrich your understanding of yourselves and the world around you.